stuff to talk about. Carole, good morning.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens in New Hampshire.
We love you. All right. Hey, you did some really important stuff this week or last week. You've been working really hard on a Big Cat Public Safety Act, and it actually passed the United States House of Representatives. Tell us a little bit about that and how big of a deal is this?
Woohoo! I am so excited about this. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and it's not just me. It's like all of the animal protection groups have been working together on the Big Cat Public Safety Act. And what that act will do is end cub petting, which is what drives most of the abuse, breeding these cats, using them for a few weeks as pay-to-play props, and then discarding them into private ownership. The second part of the bill will phase out that private ownership. So people who have them can keep them, they just can't buy or breed more. And it passed the House with 2/3. That's a majority vote, so it would have passed even on suspension. And we were really happy to see that kind of support. So that means and signals to the Senate that this is a bipartisan bill that can and should be passed this year. And it's the year of the tiger, so what perfect year for a bill to protect tigers in the wild from extinction by ending these two really egregious practices.
Well, I think that's fantastic. Have you started doing the lobbying of the Senate yet? Do you know what kind of feedback you're getting out of there?
Yes. In fact, I started really hot and heavy on the Senate in December of last year. And I went with Marty Irby and Wayne Pacelli from Animal Wellness Action. And they set up 30 different appointments. 3 different times I went up since December and met with 30 legislators or their chiefs of staff. So we got really high access, and these were mostly geared toward Republicans in the Senate. We did some at that time in the House as well because we were ramping up for this bill. But in the Senate, what we wanted to be sure of is that everybody was on board with the bill, because everybody says that animal bills always go to the Senate to die. And we didn't want that to happen with the Big Cat Public Safety Act. We have to get this done this year if we're going to save the tigers in the wild. So we were preempting that by going up there, explaining what the bill actually does, answering any questions that they had. And I'm delighted to report that nobody has any real issue with the bill itself. I know we had a little bit of opposition from 1 or 2 representatives in the House, but even they said that this thing should have been on the consent agenda because everybody agrees that there shouldn't be lions and tigers in backyards and garages and basements across America. The only sticking point was whether it should be enforced by USDA or the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, but it's clearly a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service issue.
I mean, this is so huge. The idea that someone would get a baby tiger or lion and think that they're going to raise it as a pet is preposterous to me. But people to understand is when, you're either using it to make money so you can pet a cub, or you're getting it in because you think you can raise a tiger. What happens to these poor animals is they have to end up at, like a refuge like yours. That's what you're for. You have to take these animals in. They're not pets and they're not meant to be treated that way.
And that's only the very few lucky ones. We expect that probably the most of those big cats, once they can't be used as ego props, and that's usually by the time they're about 4 months old because they're so big they can take a finger off a child by then. Most of those, we believe, are actually being killed, sold into the illegal trade for their parts. That's why this is causing such increased pressure on tigers in the wild, because if you get caught with a tiger tooth necklace and you just say, well, that was my pet tiger, currently there's no law against that. Whereas if there were a law against people having pet tigers and you got caught with a tiger tooth necklace, you could be looking at 5 years in jail and $20,000.
Big deal. Well, I want to ask you, so you've been an activist on this issue for a really long time, and understandably, but it just now seems to be getting the attention of people and getting real movement. I mean, do you attribute that a little bit, at least, to your newer found stardom as of a few years ago after the program that aired while we were all sitting at home in quarantine watching it? It got more eyes on it. That's got to be a positive thing, is it?
Well, it's a double-edged sword, because I think the producers of Tiger King did everything that they could to discredit me so that I could not have any kind of a voice in getting this bill passed. And I've had to overcome that by showing that the things that they said about me in Tiger King were lies. But it did have the good benefit of people actually knowing this problem exists. We've been fighting this since 1998. We got a previous version of this bill passed in 2003 that had a tremendously good impact for the cats, but it still had loopholes, and those loopholes were the cub petting and the private ownership. We've been trying ever since 2003 to get those loopholes closed, and every session, they're 2-year sessions, every session we gained more momentum and more support, and it was just, we were on target this year for the same amount of momentum and support that we got. So we are doing better than ever before, and I think maybe the public feels like this is all because of Tiger King, because they weren't aware of all of these things going on behind the scenes, but it's been a long time in coming.
I've been working on it for a long, 2 decades is a long time to get something done in Washington, but to get anything done in Washington right now is a grand success, because they're not doing a whole lot when it comes to passing bills down there. So hopefully this bipartisan bill will actually make its way to the Senate, get there, get passed, and all your hard work will come to fruition. So any last thoughts on this before we let you go?
Well, if people want to help and they're U.S. citizens, they can go to bigcatact.com and contact their member of the Senate and ask them to support the Big Cat Public Safety Act.
I'm not sure. bigcatact.org, you said?
.com. bigcatact.com.
I got it written down. bigcatact.com. Thank you, Carole, for joining us. We really enjoy having you on Good Morning New Hampshire and getting this update. Good luck on the passage to the Senate, and congratulations on the passage in the House.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.